Today, Saturday, 21st of August, I am calling it as a day of journey. We just recorded Abid Patel journey, and now Saurabh, then Hassan. Liz is giving exam. So I'm counting five, six journeys we will be recording. So Saurabh, straightforward, share your entire PMP journey. So when you started, what you did, you have watched many journeys, how all those things are. Please go ahead, mic is yours.
My PMP journey started 2 years back in year 2019. Right, I was out of my MBA school and had decided early to pursuing project management as a career. And hence, someone told me maybe I realized that PMP was one of the valuable certification. And so I enrolled for the PDUs and registered for the membership. Right, did not enroll for the examination, but for that because I think that was a time when PMP was supposed to change, right? 2018 December or the time 2018 December, right? 29 December was the time when PMP was supposed to change. So I was planning to give it before that. But then owing to some other commitment and of course I would say that procrastination and other things that got just down my priority list, right? And then owing to the pandemic and the change in the pattern, the PMP kept on extending my date till the last till July 2018, right? In April 2018, in April 2021, I had asked the PMI to extend my membership once, maybe the eligibility, right, was supposed to expire in April 2021, and then they extended by 3 months, and then owing to some health issues, I was not again able to give it, and I again requested PMI, but now they are very much adamant that they won't be extending it. But owing requesting them, they were generous enough to finally give me a 1 month extension. I got to know that in July or maybe last month on 16th or 15th of July, I got to know that my exam will now eligibility is up to 18th August. And then I decided it was on my final 1 month to prepare for it. And then I started speaking to a few of the past aspirants who had already cleared, and some of them told me that it's not possible. They have been preparing for 6 months. Some of them they told they should give it a best try, but then I realized it was my final sprint, and I would was preparing. So the first thing what I did was booked my a slot in a center of in Pune, right, which is around 200 kilometers from Mumbai, because I did not wanted to take any risk of network issues or something which can hamper my examination. Hence, I booked a slot, booked my train tickets and my hotel, and started preparing for it. So I started with the Agile Practitioner Guide. I finished that one, maybe just one single reading, right? Not on a very dedicated book, but still I just prepared. And since I was a software engineer and had worked in the Scrum setting for like 4 years in the initial years, so I knew at least some of the process. So I was familiar with it. And then on advice of one of my colleague or friend, I gave my first mock with very less, only with the agile preparation. So these were the mocks from EPMC which I had got. Right? So EPMC was an institute in Mumbai from which I had got my PDUs and got my train. So the mocks were still pending because I did not get the exams. I gave my first mock and I had got 100 out of 180, and 65% was their cutoff, which they had mentioned that around 117 units is score. So I gave my first mock, and then I started going to the PIMBOK, right? And to be very honest, it seemed very overwhelming on the very first book, the PIMBOK. And so then I referred to all the resources that then I realized that too many resources and good resources available on YouTube. One of them was from the Edu HubSpot. I started with the introduction course on Varun Anand. I went to that and one of the other chapters. And then when I was doing it, as and when I started reading, it became more and more overwhelming, and I was not able to make that connect. And then I came across your videos, sir, and those were like 20 minutes videos. And I think I was looking for something like that, right? Which made us so first. I remember I watched your first video was a 33-minute PMP, the entire PMP, and when I saw that, it gave me an entire gist.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So that is when I got in there. I need to watch all your videos, and I think it was on the same night I connected with you also, right? That I have hardly 2 weeks. That was 15, 17, 15, 16 days before my examination. But then I started, and as you're based on, you shared some of your free resources with me. And then what I did, I used to do the same thing. I used to watch all the journey videos, right, and then go to the PMP and kept on giving my mock. So I think around 8, 9 days before my mock exam, I got around 130 marks in my mock, and I was very much happy that okay, I'm able to do it. But unfortunately, the last week I couldn't study much again, owing to my son was sick, so I had to take him to doctors early morning and the evening. So I couldn't study during those 4 5 days. But then I had that remaining 5 days, and I spent reading. So what I did in the last 5 days, I read the entire PMBOK once again. So I had read it once during my preparation. I read the entire PMBOK once again. I went through most of the journeys as well as right. So and you spend solved some question on the Edu HubSpot mocks also. And what I realized that I was getting around 70%, right? Even out of, so let's say around 75 question which I attempted on the Edu Hub, sorry, in the prep casting, sorry. I got around 70%. Even the EPMC mock, I was getting around 70%. So the remaining 2 days, I decided to then just spend some time reading in the maybe and identifying the gaps which were there and reading on that. And one day before, I believe, right, 2 days before, I reached out to you for the Agile video, right? So I watched that video because I had finished reading and solving questions. So that was that video. I had downloaded that. I watched that video during my travel time from Mumbai to Pune in the train. So and by the night I was too much exhausted, to be very honest. I did not wanted to read anything. So I slept around 8 to 9 hours in the night. I was fresh awake, and I think a night before when we spoke, you had advised me few things on the timing part around the 75 minutes, 80 and 70 minutes. So
80, 80,
honestly,
70. 80, 80,
80
70.
and 70, but I did not had this issues, right? The timing issues in the EPMC mock. I always to finish early, but PM, even the Edu HubSpot, right? But I realized that is, I think, one of the advice which I want to give to all the aspirants also, that the PMP exam is very much different, I would call it. I don't think any mock can actually replicate it, or one can be very much sure that after solving like 10 mocks, you may be able to at least get the questions right 100% correct. Because I think you had advised me, that was a final advice, that how much are you are prepared in one in between, you will feel that you're gonna flunk, that you're not gonna clear the PMP exam, and I think I had the same feeling. So maybe I had done my bit of preparation. In the morning, I just spent time on 3 videos. One was the closing video, one was the change control video, and one was the initiation video. These were like 18, I think 15, 20 minutes video I spent that, and read about the EVPV, all the formulas which were there. I spent around 15, 20 minutes to read about that thing. So and then I went to the examination, the center, right? And they were very professional there. And I started my exam. And this time I knew that I was at the top of my brim energy. I wasn't feeling sleepy. I was energetic. I was positive. When the mock started, the initially my speed was slow in the first 75 minutes. I realized that when I spent around half an hour time, I had only finished around 15 question or so. But then I started picking up, and I had finished my first section in 75 minutes. And then remaining sections were also finished in 75, because I had kept my target as 75, 75, 75 minutes. And I finished my last section in 75 minutes. So there were 5 minutes spare, and uh, I quickly submitted the button. And I was used to see this exam, maybe whenever I used to see this journey, right? So you used to post this thing, right? About target, about target. So I was waiting to see that thing. So there was a screen which came that you were, congratulations, you're PMP certified. I did not read it completely. I just clicked proceed, and there was a survey, and the exam ended. I'm like, oh my god, am I cleared or not? Have cleared or not? But when I went outside, the person said, "Let me just give you," and he said, "No, you're cleared with all about target," and that was a delight, to be very honest, uh, and also relieving, right? So it seemed like a daunting task when I began with the preparation, and when I finished, it was good. But at the same time, when I see that, right, whenever I start looking, it also gave me a change in the perspective, Amit sir. So right now I'm also in a PMO role, right? So sometimes it used to happen that something used to, if something is going wrong, right? So I used to maybe I should see that, okay, this is the circumstances. But now after actually preparing the PMP, I think there is an attitude change which realizes no, the project manager is responsible and it is my responsibility to ensure that I manage constraints and get it done. So I think that has been a change in a bit the in my perspective in my work. And
So this is very positive. That thing basically bring that change. That is the purpose of the PMP, and this happened to everyone. You see, you start seeing the things as they are, how you should be working, and many things. Basically, you remove those things in your mind. Okay, this is not my thing. This is not my thing. No, there's a problem. Whoever can solve, they have to solve the problem. So this is a very good thing I think the PMP has given you. Okay, let's talk about more of the exam. So how exam was more related to things? What were the things that you think were more important and all those things, please?
the in my exam, what I found, it was more of hybrid project based, right? It was more of a hybrid thing. It was many questions were there on hybrid. Around 60 to 70 were based on hybrid, and 90% of their, I believe, was situational based. There were no tools and techniques. There wasn't any direct question. Everything involved situation, and one need to actually think, get into the shoes and think. So that was my approach there. When there used to be a problem, I used to think, what would I do when I am in that situation, right? So it was mostly situational based, and as I realized that I used the elimination technique. So what the only approach, the problem which I faced, I was easily able to eliminate two options, but the two options are very close, and then you need to actually have to think that time, right? When what would be the best option, the selecting one of the best of the. So I believe the preparation, the regular preparation actually gets you to that position, right? That even if you go with your gut, then your answers would be correct. So that is there. So in a nutshell, it was more on situational and that base, situational based, and more on agile. Not even agile. I would say it was more on hybrid flow. So it
Okay.
had both the elements, and then you used to get in solve the problem.
Which area was more targeted? Stakeholder communication, resource, which area was more targeted?
I believe stakeholder and communication were more targeted in this. And even the change control part. Stakeholder and
And
change were two of the major areas which had questions. There
okay.
was one straight question from the leadership thing which I owing a straight question. I think they were there, right? What kind of leader is it? A transactional or something like that. I
Yeah.
think that was one of the things. Unfortunately, I hadn't studied for that part, but I realized that was an easy go. So it's
Okay.
important. I
So
think when you had told,
and you cannot share the direct question. You can just give the context of that. Okay.
yeah,
So okay. So what about risk and procurement?
procurement was not there. I don't see procurement was there. Risk was there. Procurement, I did not see much questions in my examination, not contract based, nothing like that. It was more on situational based, but risks were there, but not
What
on
about what about quality?
quality was also there. There were questions, they were spread across everything, but I would say that not on much on procurement, but and more on situation. So it actually used to combine multiple things in the questions, which I realized, right? So
Okay. So you have done multiple mocks. Which exam mocks you think were more relevant to the exam?
I
More
think
relevant.
I would say the prepcast one questions were, I think, I think if we because I solved around 75 questions of that, but I realized that really helped me to that required me to
You
think.
did you bought Prepcast?
No, I did not buy. I did not bought Prepcast. I used the free resources and the exam simulator part.
Okay, okay. So apart from that, what else is helpful which students should do for the mocks coming to the mocks time?
Mocks I had prepared on, as I said, I had done the EPMC one, which was what I had, but so the it's important. I think what I would suggest that I mean, if I would to want to give one advice to the students, that they should try mocks from multiple sources. I think that is one of the areas which I would suggest that
Loved
there are
it.
multiple free mocks which are available, so you can get idea from different perspective, right? So what happens if you're giving one specific mock, then you have one structured thinking, but giving it from two to three different people would give you a broader understanding and help you tackle questions in a better manner. And yes, it is situational based, very much so. It is important to actually change your mindset to actually get it that thinking process rather than solving questions only. So
Okay. So you have already given the final advice that I asked the students. So this is someone who watches my journey. They know what I'm going to ask. So three more things, Saurabh, I need from you. First of all, you have done such a long journey. I need you to write questions of PMP. Okay, as many as you want. Uh, I want you to write the question because this will help a lot. This will make the real PMP exam question. Secondly, I want the most important thing, each one teach one. Each
yes, sir.
one teach one.
Each one.
Okay. And the final thing, this is a time to enjoy. So enjoy your
Thank you,
journey.
sir.
You have done it. Thank you very much, Saurabh, for your time and best of luck for future endeavors. And once again, congratulations from the
Thank you,
entire
Aman,
PM.
sir, for helping the community and strengthening the project management community. So I maybe I would. There's one more final advice I would like to give. People may give PMP or not. It's just an examination. I would say that, but watching your journeys has helped me actually establish. I told you on the chat also, right, that it has helped me develop that logical connection, right? Otherwise it seems to be an old mind. It's not. It's a very logical exam, to be very honest, right? And I'm sure I will be visiting those journey in later stages also to understand what would be the right approach to tackle a specific problem.
And I am adding few things like you have seen. Now I'm doing all those journeys on my whiteboard. Plus, I am working with the animator to make all the journeys with the cartoons. So you guys will be seeing maybe getting one journey a month, or I will see how fast we can do. But my plan is by the end of this year also make all the journeys in the form of cartoons, because some people learn in the form of mind maps, some people in writing, some people in words, some people in form of cartoons. And my goal is to give you the